Hello, 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 and welcome back to Ascension TV Online. I am Caroline Mary and I am your host. So good to be here today again. So, today, when I was tuning in about what I was going to talk about, I kept getting soul retrieval healing, soul retrieval healing. Little did I know I'd be talking about something. I'm going to move my cursor there. Um, a very profound soul healing and retrieval that happened yesterday for me. I had a beautiful friend over, a fellow author, another author. Her book was just launched yesterday. It's amazing. I'll put a link actually in the bottom because it's a wonderful, wonderful book. Um, and we were doing a lot of chatting about that, about our journey of being authors and how challenging it can be to speak your own truth, out in public. And when you put it in print, it's not just I've said it and it's gone in the wind. It's there in public. People can see it. They can feed back to you. There's no escaping. It's really confronting. But I will say, if you've ever thought about writing a book, go out, get and do it because it is just the most satisfying thing. I know more than anything, and this actually connects to the soul retrieval thing, because if you don't resolve something, whether it's a creative project that you really feel like you want to birth, but you keep not doing, or whether it's something that you need to heal and you haven't healed it, it's going to be there. The pea, I keep using this analogy like a pea under the mattress, okay? It doesn't matter if it's this tiny little thing and you're all the way up here, you're still going to feel a kink, yeah? And I want to say in the time-space continuum, it creates a kink. In your whole energetic system, it creates a kink. So I knew I had to prioritize this year. I had to prioritize that book. It brought up so much of my old stuff, okay? And this is why today one of the things I wanted to talk about was soul retrieval. Why is it at this time so many people have mental health problems? And I do that because, to me, when people talk about mental health problems, it's like, oh, they're schizophrenic, oh, they've got a problem, and it's almost like, oh, poor them, and or oh, well, as though it's just random. Oh, it's a hereditary thing, it's just random. It's not random. It is just completely not random. To me, it is inevitable. Firstly, because of the way the world is right now, it's completely out of whack. Modern systems, the Western system, it means we are expected to be like robots when we're not. We are energetic beings and we work in cycles. And, the whole thing of like, women not being allowed time to have their moon time, and having this shame around. It's just everything. When I was growing up, I was like, this is all just wrong. Everything is wrong. So like you cannot be you may be a well-adjusted person in this world, but the way we're brought up to work and be in the world, to me, is just out of whack. So the fact that many of us are bulking against it. It's not that we're wrong, it's that the systems are created. They're on the back of the Industrial Revolution. Basically, people are expected to be a slave and not have any problem with that. And it's no, we're in a time where we're like, no, we're not putting up with poor attitudes and poor treatment and inequality and sex and pay. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the world, and our inner dis-ease, discomfort is a result of a collective like reshuffling that's going on. But on a personal level, and this is really what I'm interested in talking about today, is what is soul retrieval? Like I talked last week about healing or creating, and I love creating. I love, I've been very blessed in my life. I was just trying to find something I've made. I've made a lot of stuff. I used to do felting. That's one of the things. That's my computer cover. Bit tatty now. I need to get some more. But I went traveling and I had a lot of felting. I went to the wool exhibition here down in Bilf Wales. Actually, I live in Bilf now. And I got into felt making, and I used to make felt jewelry, and I made gloves, and I've made bags and all sorts of stuff. I made little kooky little things. And then I realized that wasn't my thing, and I've made things out of material. I've made a bag recently, and I've made my drum bag for my shamanic drum, all the stuff, right? I've made clothes, I've made a lot of stuff. I've made hangings, I've made curtains. I'm very lucky. I brought up with a very practical mama. So, I learned to do that. I've made vegetable gardens, I've grown vegetables, whatever. I've made things, I've made stuff out of wood, and made tables and like shoe rack and things like this. So I love creating. I've created music. I've written songs before now. But what was really happening for me in my life is to actually create a bigger life that actually felt satisfying, in alignment, and fulfilling for me felt very hard. So from my 20s, I would create. Oh, I just do all this stuff. I knew I could, I knew I had capacity. I was a grade A student. I knew I had the ability to learn stuff, but I was never feeling fulfilled. And I was just didn't understand. I was just like, what? And my belief is for a lot of us, we are old souls. So we have a lot of soul memory of being able to do stuff. And actually, it can be very overwhelming because you're like, well, should I do this or this or this or this? And at a certain point, about 8, 9, 10 years ago, I said to a friend of mine, got all my instruments, but I also want to write. And I was like, I just can't get it. And she said, look, you've got to choose right now. She's psychic. She said, Spirit is saying you've got to choose, because it's not that I can never play music, but if I play music, it's so natural for me. I did lots of grades as a kid. I played a lot of instruments. You're not going to grow as much as if you put the instruments down and you're going to start writing. That's going to be a really big, there's a lot of growth because there's a lot of edges. So often, this is what I was talking about last week, we can have edges where we most want to go, and that is not by accident. That's by default, because you'll want, like, the thing that you want wants you. A lot of people will say that, but you have to bring in healing if you can receive it. So for some people, for example, it's very easy. I watched my friends, person after person, get married, have kids, or have kids and not get married, just popping them out. As what's the comedian Bill Hicks? He said, there's a scene and this woman just popping out these kids. For me, it wasn't for want of trying. I've had a lot of intimacy. I've been very blessed with some beautiful men and women. And I didn't get pregnant. And then I got pregnant last year, and oh my God, it tipped my world upside down because I was terrified. So what it did actually for me is bring up this, what I didn't realize, how much stuff I had around being pregnant. I used to think, oh, I just want to get pregnant. I just want to have a family. And it wasn't necessarily just a family, but I wanted to be away from the world. I wanted to live in nature and just be a stay-at-home mum. And actually, apparently, I'm not here necessarily to do that. Although, yeah, healing all of that might bring the biggest healing for me, do you see? So, when we're creating and wishing on things, yes, we can say just cease all desires because the lack of it is where we suffer. That's a very Buddhist concept. And I really had that in me a lot, and it's created a lot of noise for me. I shouldn't want anything. And I didn't want anything for years, or I believed I didn't want anything because I was too scared to want and not have. So there's all these layers, right, that I've had to look at, and I'm still working through it. But really, at a certain point, when I started making prayers of like, what can I do in the world? Like, forget what I think I want. What is it I'm here to do? Like, what can I give to the world, given who I am, my soul, my soul gifts, whatever, my skills, my propensities. And when I started going on vision quests, I started getting downloads, and that's when I started getting like, oh, I've got this idea, and these words would drop in, like you can see at the bottom there, the Ascension Alchemist. I prayed to the Spirit. I said, what if I had one word, when people get introduced, like, it's Caroline Mary, or what would be my label? My mentor, Angela, she's the practical mystic. What's mine? And it landed, the Ascension Alchemist, because everything I do is, if it's in the highest iteration of it, is for the highest good, which is bringing in ascension for all beings, for myself and others. It's to ascend the earth, to raise the vibration of the earth, which is why Ascension TV Online. Okay, so a lot of the things I do are because I've prayed and I've received a job, if you like, and that is relevant for me. Like, I am a talker. When you get, I have a specialist subject, if you want to use a neurospicy terminology. My specialist subject is healing, and talking about healing and talking about understanding and bringing that to people. And that's a passion, so I can talk about it. So why not do a TV show? If people don't want it, oh, I'm such, I can see this in the mirror. If people don't want to hear it, brilliant, you skip on by. It doesn't matter, it doesn't bother me. Well, it kind of does, but it doesn't have to really bother me. I know I'm doing this for the greatest good of all, and if it's for you, it is, and if it isn't, it isn't, right? But so we have to heal. So coming back to the theme of today, how we heal. Okay, we'll talk about creativity another day. How we heal, kind of, I want to say it doesn't matter. It's why there are so many healing modalities. So some people will swear by their therapist, and it will do the work. And other people, oh, you can't just do talking therapy, you have to do somatic therapy. Brilliant. But with some therapy, if you talk to somebody and you are heard well, that is a part of your soul that was bubbling under the surface, going like, oh, I really need to talk to somebody. If you give it a voice, guess what? It heals it. That is what soul retrieval is. Sometimes it's a bit deeper. This is why you might have psychic surgery, that type of healing, where you really go in. And really, when I work with people doing energy healing, some of it you could consider it psychic surgery, because it's literally going into somebody saying, where's the problem in your body? You talk about, a subject, and there's always a physical connection, like a contraction, okay, where there's a trauma contraction, and then you can start healing it and it just dissolves it. And that is like a psychic surgery. Okay. When I'm talking about, the reason why I'm talking about soul retrieval is because I believe it's very, very important for us to understand what is happening when we have a trauma and why we feel so shitty, basically. Because, people say, don't get stuck in the past, just let it go. But actually, what they're asking you to do is ignore. If you've got a problem, okay, say you have a car accident, okay, and you were catapulted out into the field, and that moment, time slowed down, you thought you're going to die, life flashed for you, but you didn't die, but you're lying in there, and you're just like, whoa, you're in shock state, right? If you are then expected to get up, move on, get on with it, people know, right? You have shock. And this is what happens when you have trauma, because that is so challenging to integrate, yeah, that you might pass out, you might disassociate, you might just freeze up. Who knows? Because everyone is very different how we relate to these things. But just for example, in that example, you get whisked to hospital, you're in there, and you just don't feel you're right, you just don't feel right, you just don't feel right, because a part of you did not, or was not allowed, or could not, or wasn't able to, didn't know how to really stay present through that process. So what happens is a part of your energy will get stuck. And on a physical level, it's like your body's going la 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 la, but this little strand of you is just like there, and you're like and this part you're trying to get away from it. Yeah, trying to get away from the pain, the trauma, the shock, the horror, the oh my God, I'm gonna fucking die. Because somebody's going, oh, I'll be all right, you'll be all right. Yeah, yeah, it's fine now. And I was like, yeah, you did okay, you didn't get died, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, but and this is why we can feel really out of whack. And I've had this so many times in my life. It's like the world is carrying me forward because time keeps going, but this part of me is like, yeah, you're in shock, you don't know how to process. Now, it's my understanding that it's a grace. There's a grace, there's a grace from God. It's a gift from God or source, our higher self and our guide team. That if you have very extreme trauma, I have a trauma that I still don't remember yet. You will just not remember it. You'll just literally blank it out. And that is not because we're failing. That's not because there's an ego. It's a grace because we haven't got the capacity. Similarly, if you are going to be in a car accident and it's likely you're going to die, you'll probably leave your body before you actually hit the ground. Yeah, because what is the need for the body, like the soul, to experience the crushing sensation of the body? It's just like ridiculous. So sometimes the body will leave. If it's in shock, though, the body and the soul that was in that body might get stuck. Yeah, and this is what I'll come on to talking about my thing that happened yesterday. For me, the soul retrieval that happened yesterday, it's the same process. If you die and you're in shock and you don't realize, that's why we have ghosts. That literally is why we have ghosts, because some souls, when they pass, it's a shock to them. They feel guilty. And it isn't that there's hell that actually exists, but they can create, if you're going to die. I have soul retrieved. I'll give you an example of this. I soul retrieved a part, and with the help of my friend Becky, who does belief coding. And this part of me had died on the battleground, and it didn't want to pass over because it was so guilt ridden, because I, in that life, had caused so many deaths. And in those pre-death moments, was like, oh my God, I've just done so much wrong. I don't want to face God. Yeah. So that part of me was just stuck. Yeah. And it's not. that is your whole true self, because your higher self resides in a higher realm. It's just a part that comes down, in my understanding. Correct me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, hold it all lightly, take what resonates. But this is how I currently see it and understand it. And that part of me was stuck, and we pulled it back, and I could feel the grief, I could feel the guilt, because in this life I have had a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, and more than a child should not have, right? More than is from the sum of the parts of this current life. So I knew, and I know I always had a feeling of past life, because I had flashes and understandings, and I'd see history books, and I'd see like real, like live scenes of like tuning in, and I always had this feeling of homesickness about other eras, and other lands. Yeah, so I always had that, and but I just didn't know how I would be soul retrieving that, later on in my life. So, for example, that's one example how why soul retrieval is extremely important in our healing journey. Now, do you have to understand it fully? No, because if you are able to journal how you feel, that journaling, by giving a voice to that part of you that we can call the subconscious, but I would call would be your soul, okay? And you could then say parts of your soul that you are retrieving back into fullness. You can also say it's elements from your Akashic records, but really when we're healing, we can be accessing the Akashic records without realizing, if you're going into it in so much detail and like catharting on such a deep level. Okay, so this is why something like journaling, EFT, talking to a friend, counselor, therapist, very, very useful. And I really wish that people would not put one over the other. I've talked to people in work. I had this beautiful conversation with a friend, friend, colleague, years ago, and I said, thank you so much for hearing me. I didn't know I needed to say that. And she was like, oh, it's fine. Like, no problem. And I was like, no, seriously, like, you do not know how beautiful that moment was. And she was like, what did I do? I said, I knew she was Christian. She was really strongly Christian at that time. I said, you know what? And I kind of paused and I said, you listened with the ears of God. And we both got this like shiver. And it was like, she heard me with so much grace and compassion that it literally healed. It just literally healed me. And if you've heard of A Course in Miracles, that is the gap. That is the moment of healing, right? It's just like unbelievably beautiful. And she wasn't a trained counselor. She just fucking wanted to hear. She had that space. There was a moment. There was no kids there. I was cleaning. She was a care worker. And it was just unbelievable. I'll never forget it. It was just so beautiful. And contrarily, I know I haven't always been there for other people, because I've been out of sorts. I've been in my own stuff and haven't been able to just hear. And I've experienced that when people are like, "Oh, just don't worry about it." So you cathar, and then they go, "No, no, no," and you meant to almost just take it back and go, "Oh, you stupid me! I shouldn't have said that." And it's absolutely gut wrenching, which is why, for the most part, I will try to give people the time of day if they need it, because it is just so heart-aching if you start sharing something that's deep and it's been wounding or it's shameful, and then someone goes, "Oh, just forget it, don't, you shouldn't even think about that." And it's like, if it's coming out of your mouth, it's not that you're thinking about it, it's that you're processing it out. It's coming out of your subconscious and it's coming out. Yeah, it's coming out of this bit, and I firmly believe that when people talk about anxiety, most of it is because feelings are here and they're going, "Oh, I shouldn't have the feeling, shut up, shut up." They're like, "No, I've got a feeling, it's really annoying." It's like, it's a fucking feeling, let it out. Which is why people like Matt Kahn will say, "Feel it to heal it." Healing is the feeling. Feeling is the healing. And unfortunately, people call it mental health. It's like, "Oh, we just got to stop it," rather than going, it's emotional health, it's physical health, it's holistic health, it's all of it. Yeah. And if you flow, like, I've done yoga and danced and Tai Chi type stuff for years, that helps shift it. But it doesn't mean you might not feel the texture of grief, sadness, remorse, guilt, pain, hate, resentment, fear, whatever, anger, happiness, all the things. Okay. And I think what happens is we all want the happy ones, but we don't want the sad ones. But the thing is, that's the shit that gets stuck, because it's like, ah. And that's why we've got a mass epidemic of well-being problems, because people are trying to just get to the end rather than being in. And it's like, if you're judging a feeling, it's going to keep it down, but it ain't going to move it. Whereas if you just go, "Oh, okay, I've got anger about that," suddenly it starts disappearing. I heard it once said that it only takes 90 seconds to actually have a feeling. So if you just can name it and just acknowledge it and not even have to name it, just notice it, suddenly it starts shifting. So right now, for example, take a moment. What are you feeling? Are you pissed off with me? Are you thinking, oh, will you shut up? Or I don't like the way you're doing that, or I don't like how you're moving, whatever, it doesn't matter. Notice what's underneath. I'm triggering that, I might be triggering that, or you might be thinking of something else in your life. Okay. But I tell you what, the minute you start being honest is the minute it starts shifting. And I'll tell you the example from my life exactly from today. I'd had a big healing yesterday, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute because it feels very, very relevant. But I did a whole day of clients today, and I felt really good. You know, it's like this is really great. It's lovely to work with people and share the tools that I have that I'm able to offer. And then I had a message from her saying, "Oh, how are you feeling after yesterday?" Because we did this big healing. I was just like, honestly, I feel depressed. I feel unhappy. Um, I feel a bit flat, and it was so refreshing to just be able to own it. I don't want to go out. I don't want to do, and I know I'm exhausted from the summer. I know I overdid it in the summer. I would say I had like some adrenal burnout, knowing enough about physiology and knowing my body. So I booked in a lot, and I had a lot in between, and I had the book overarching. So I had to keep emailing back with the publisher and check in and hoping it's going to be all right. And are we going to meet the deadline? And so triggering a lot. I was like trying to design the front cover, and it was bringing up my not good enough and having to be in my power, and just like I'm allowed to choose. I don't have to care what anybody else thinks. I can just take it on. But I hadn't realized how much healing I needed to do around, can I just say this is what I want? And that's what I get. You know, there were so many layers to it. Okay. So the last few weeks I've been going, calm, 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 calm. And I've been facing my financial worries and okay. So I've just been being real, a lot more real. And to me, the minute you can feel it is the minute you can start healing it. And if you're pretending, or in any way, what people are masking in neurospicy speak, people say everyone masks. The world masks because no one grew up say with somebody saying, tell me what you're feeling. That's okay. It's okay. It's natural that you feel that. You've got a nervous system. Of course you're going to be feeling that because that's what the nervous system does. It's like, don't make a fuss, don't cry. It's a problem. Yeah, because the people before us, our ancestors, they didn't have someone telling them, oh, come on, it's okay. You can have feelings. It's fine. It's just get on with it, get on with it, get back to normal, get back with normal, get back to normal. So we do it, get back to normal, get back to normal. There's something wrong with me, get back to normal. No, that's not real. That's absolute bullshit. And I do believe the more, it's so ironic because the more honest you can feel your feelings and be honest with it, the quicker it heals. Yeah. But you can't skip it. And that is the bit that I've done for years. I'm working with clients again and again. I'm like, oh man, it's another mirror because yes, she's talking about something. Oh yeah, okay, right, click, 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 click. So I'm always receiving healing while I'm holding space for others. It's not why I do it, but it's inevitable because in our life we get mirrors from people. If we haven't healed something and we think we have, we're going to get a message somehow or other, and the quicker you connect to that and go, oh god, I really get that, it's the quicker that you then cogitize, process, feel, heal, transmute it. Okay. I do believe that healing can come from energy. You know, I do energy healing, but I also believe that sometimes there's an actual soul retrieval that needs to happen. Sometimes I want to say, okay, Spirit, help me out here. What I'm getting a sense is there's a high percentage of healing that can happen just because you've just had that beautiful energy healing. It's why meditation is like one of the most healing things that you can do for yourself. And when I say meditation, that is being with your breath, noticing and being, and body scanning, which essentially is what Vipassana meditation is hugely healing. It's reaching. I call it reaching. Perhaps I'll do a talk on that one day. But there are elements of our soul's journey that can be really problematic. And that is where something like a soul retrieval or the therapy or the shamanic healing or doing inner child healing or whatever process it is to help you integrate a part, that is where that is born from. So I wish this was alive because I would love to be having people ask questions. But if you do have questions as you're watching this, you can ask away. You can obviously research any of the phrases I'm saying. You know, don't quote me in terms of, I a lot of the things that I share come from my own inner journeying, not because I've read it in a book and I'm regurgitating. So, some people say, oh, in this book, so and so called. I don't care what other people call it in terms of like tit for tat, because it's not about comparing, oh, this person knows it better. What I'm imparting to you is the importance of and the exemplification of what happens when we start really settling into our body, and then we have things coming up and through us that are essentially our soul retrieving itself. I do believe that sometimes it happens by spontaneous healing, and that is why some people will get flashbacks and then they'll start waking up and go, oh God, I had this trauma, I didn't realize. Because it's time. Yeah, it's like a time for them to start integrating it. And it can be really, really, really discombobulating. I really understand that. I'm not in any way, shape, or form undermining people with severe PTSD, because this is why people will have the flashbacks. If you've ever watched Downton Abbey, I watched the scene just the other day, and there was a veteran, from the war, and he'd obviously had shell shock, what they called shell shock then, and he was living this scene out, right? And when I got pregnant, that was what's happening for me. I wasn't as profound, but I knew the feelings that were working through me was a terror of, if I have this baby and I live in the way that I would want to live, i.e. I'm not going to vaccinate it and da, da, da. My terror was my parents, my dad and his missus are going to take it from me and they're going to section me, because they don't I never feel like they fully understand my holistic way of being. They're just a bit, they're different. They had the COVID jabs, for example. So the fear, and it's probably unfounded in fairness to them, but the fear in me was very real. It was a severe like PTSD reaction, and it really did put a spanner in the works for me. So it was very challenging to have to be, I could be really happy because I'm pregnant with the love of my life, Rob, but actually it doesn't feel easy for me. And I believe I also had multiple layers of motherhood challenges from other lives. Okay. So this brings me back to yesterday, what happened, which I've kind of not going to make the whole episode about this, but I really wanted to just how can I say it? Share as a follow on from last week why healing is so important and why the work I do is the way it is with people. I am predominantly trained as a coach, but within the coaching, healing, the training that I did, it was profoundly and deep healing. Okay, so there's many ways to get into these parts of us. Okay, some of it's talking to a friend, and this is what happened yesterday. I had a friend over, we were talking about our lives as an author and how much challenge it's been and how interesting it is and how beautiful that we're both in this journey, and it's lovely and it feels very deep, the connection with I have. And she came up to that I have with her, and she came up to my hometown. And we walked around and said, oh, where should we go for a cup of tea? And we, walked through a few cafes. And I said to her, I don't really do this. I don't really like living here. I'll be honest. Some part of me has a real challenge. And I know it's a layer. It's not the whole me. It's not my sky mind. Okay. So you might understand now I talk a lot about sky mind and the clouds, because the clouds are not us, but we have to acknowledge there's a cloud. It's like the elephant in the room. If you try and pretend it's not there, it's bollocks, isn't it? So you have to be honest, and they're your feelings or the bit that you need to heal, or that's the part of your soul that you're retrieving. Is integrating. Soul retrievers integrating an element that's been fractured off due to a trauma, like the car accident, right? So in this case, I'm saying, oh, don't know what it is. I want to move. I just want to move. I want to get my feet on the floor. I want to garden again. I want to have like land out in in nature, right? And she said, "Oh, right, what's that about?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I think it's something to do with childhood, because I felt very trapped. I felt very trapped as a child. Obviously, you have parents; they control your world, right? And it was very safe, but it felt very suppressive for me. So I don't know. I think some part of my brain is like, I'm not you. Some part of me can't feel free. And then I was like, it's not that. It's filth. I need to be." doing something about Bill. And she was like, hang on, I'm just getting a vision here. And I knew I'd lived here in another life. And I thought, I had thought, I hopefully wish, I was probably a bit wishful thinking, thought I'd processed it, right? So I'm there saying, okay. And she's like, whoa, hang on, hang on. I'm getting a vision. I'm seeing a bridge with arches. I'm like, yeah, it's outside. She goes, I didn't see it. She just completely hadn't clocked it, even though she parked just down the road here. Anyway, she goes, there's an anchor under the bridge, and you put it under the bridge and you curse the town. And I said, I got that feeling in in the last iteration of me doing this soul work. Okay, right. She goes, yeah, you sat there and whoa. She was like, whoa, it's real strong. I was like, yeah, I know. I'm like, I feel really bad. And this is part of why I've had guilt, right? Because that shit don't go away. It just gets stuck somewhere until you look at it. But like the pee under the mattress, you're going to have to look at it. And it's not about punishing. I want to say this is not about then me going, oh, and I'm such a bad person. I already have had those feelings of like, I don't really feel like I deserve to be happy, blah, 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 blah. Why? Because if you put what you put out, you get back. Yeah. And it doesn't, even if energetically you're not getting attacked, you're going to have some deeper part of you that doesn't sit right. And this is, I'll talk about this, if you've got something that you feel like this might be relevant, I'll talk to you process, you can kind of start unfurling this for yourself. But ultimately what we intuited had happened is and she had realized after she'd also been that I'd been a traveler, so like in kind of caravans or whatever, gypsy kind of wagons, and we'd obviously come here and done whatever we did, set up camp or whatever. And then we obviously, I'm just hearing, got chased out of town. They didn't like it, whatever was happening. There was a fracture, something happened. And I believe I'm just going to see if I can get clarity on this. Either my children got killed or they got severely injured or maimed. And I something happened to me and I was pregnant, and I said, look, I had a vision when I was pregnant. I was doing a lot of journeying, seeing if I could heal all the different layers, right, in my body. And she said, yeah, I'm having a lot of pain in my womb. And I said, well, I had this vision, like I had it last year, but I had it years before, that I'd been stamped on my womb when I was pregnant, and it crushed my pelvic girdle. And obviously, I was in agony. I probably would have died from it. But I don't think that happened. I don't think I died from it, because there I was cursing. Yeah, if I'd have died, I'd just died. But the point is, I had such trauma from that process of the locals and me being the visitor and being not welcomed. And she said I was in it too. She said she didn't realize that stuff, and she started getting the understandings and the vision of it. And so a lot of people had got hurt. And so it wasn't just that I'd got hurt, it was that I had, felt the pain of grief and the pain of loss and losing my baby and da 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 da. And it was just like, you're just insane with grief, you see red. So I just put this curse into the river. Okay, and I live literally, like, that point is probably 10 meters away from my flat. So no wonder I have felt like I got a message to come to Bilf. I got it literally in my ear when I was in Portugal, in a flat above a shop in Bilf Wells. I knew the town because I have friends up the road, and I knew that I'd got guided to come here some years ago, but I was like, I don't want to go there. I was just like, no, I don't really like that little there was no connection. There was no heart connection for me at that time. It didn't really seem rational, so I ignored it and I went to somewhere else instead. But I listened this time. I was like, no, I've got to do what I've got to do. So what I'm showing you here is, by sharing this story, is we went in and we actually put a huge quartz into the river. And what I was doing is, before we did this to close this loop, I was sat realizing, like, when I cursed all of those people and cursed the river and cursed the town and the bridge and everything, what I was doing is avoiding my pain and just putting like that bad wish, right? It's a bad wish, isn't it? To everyone, may you suffer, right? I don't know, suffer what I've suffered or whatever I said. I don't know for sure. But what happens is you're condemning everybody from the error that they've made. Think Course in Miracles language, right? They've fucked up a bit. Yeah. But probably they were hurting. Okay. And I do know this in Britain. People killed the witches because our indigenous Celtic Druid, ancient, the Picts and all of our ancient spirituality got crushed by the Romans, by all the invaded people, the Vikings. So we had been invaded. So our culture is squashed. So when people come in with a spirituality, it's like, oh, we don't like this. The witches, oh, we don't like this because it's become our normal. Years and years, for so many centuries in Britain, we have places like Stonehenge, but all that wisdom had got suppressed and like dried out, killed out, whatever. So when women were started showing that spirit, that cult, that kind of animism, that like shamanic, indigenous, whatever, that wisdom, that wise wisdom, elder stuff, it was scared. People were scared about it because it's like, we kind of know it, but we don't know it. We've lost our connection to the land and the wisdom and spirit world and all of that stuff. So, I can really see how even in this culture that is still a little bit like that. So in the dark ages, it's been really heavy and dark. But basically, because by cursing them, I cursed myself first and foremost, right? Because I was cementing that trauma in rather than processing it. Yeah, I didn't process the wounding, the grief and the pain and then own it for me and then just forgive them. I was like, fuck you, fuck everything. So yesterday, what I was doing is I said a lot of Ho'oponopono. It's like, I'm so sorry to you who done this thing. You were obviously in pain. You were scared of me. It's the fear of others, the root chakra stuff. Just letting it all go, just letting it all go. And what you're starting to do then is I'm seeing it's like ping, 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 because when energies get stuck, it's like a timeline is trying to resolve it. And you just create, your creative capacity is very, 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 obviously in this case, my creative capacity and my capacity to receive joy and feel at peace with myself is gone. There's a big kink in my system that is like not at peace. So that part of me, I had to really own it and be like, yeah, I did that. Wow. And it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work because you're laying waste to these people and it's energetic. So it's not like I killed them back or hurt them, back. I probably felt very disempowered, but I was putting all that pain out, and this is why when we heal, we are literally healing across timelines because me forgiving myself is just healing me. So everyone else I'm in touch with is, that they're going to receive more peace. Me forgiving those people in the first place, yes, I cursed them, but let's face it, they did something horrible. It's like, oh yeah, you were just a what's the phrase that wants to come to mind? It's you were part of we're part of the time we're in, and it takes a lot of courage to unplug from the culture or the peers or the society, religious, whatever programming and shared belief systems. It takes a lot of courage to not do that. So like, if some guys are having a jeer and like, starting to do that, for somebody to go, hang on, I'm not playing that. It's really takes, it takes a lot of courage. Think of the soldiers in Nazi Germany, for example. A lot of them wouldn't have wanted to do what they did, but they were terrified. They just didn't know, or they're scared for their families. So they just went along with it. That's human nature. And I'm getting shivers about that. It's like, God, may we forgive ourselves and others for that weakness of just doing doing the best you could do, but as souls, you can die hating yourself because you did that. And I don't think in that life I would have died regretting it. But I think in the moment that I said the curse, I got myself stuck there because I'm cementing a bond with those other souls, right? So until you unhook yourself, it doesn't mean I have to meet all of those souls, but I've lived here, right? And it has felt like I can't move from this place. I haven't felt like fully in a vibrant place. I've done things, I've done a lot of content creation, and I'm really glad about it. I've done a lot of healing in other ways and had a lot of joy living here, but I haven't felt fully free because until I I unhook that, I wasn't gonna, there was no point moving on. And this is, I suppose, the other thing that I want to share, why I'm sharing this rather, is because at this time, when you awaken, and obviously this a lot of the themes I want to talk about is what happens in our spiritual journey, because you can wake up, and as I said a few episodes ago, it's very easy, which is what I had. Hey, I found God, and then you just think that's it. Oh no, because you're going to face your shit at some point, and it isn't about punishment. It's about just owning, making right, having that justice happening. Not that I now need to suffer because I've realized I've done that. That I can make peace with myself. I can forgive myself. I can bring understanding. Go, God, no wonder. Of course, I was wailing in pain, and I had that grief moving through me yesterday. I was so tired after. It was such a deep healing, and I can forgive those people, and I can think, no wonder I didn't feel comfortable having children, because the pain of loss has been so big. Not feeling safe to travel because you're not wanted somewhere, not feeling safe on the road. You just see there's so many layers, so many layers, so many layers, so many layers. And it does feel, when I started traveling in 2013, I went off and lived in a van for a few years. It's like I didn't ever stop. And that again is what I'm bringing this to you, because if you've woken up and, if maybe you've been always very awake to your spiritual journey, and maybe not, but you might start traveling and just click. I really wanted to bring this to the attention, that you might get drawn to go somewhere, and you might have a real like, oh, I really don't like it, kind of like I had with Bill. It's not personal, of course it's not personal. It's not one person alive here that warrants that. But it was me having like a, this doesn't feel good here. Contrarily, I went to Portugal and I was like, oh my God, I need to live on this land, because I'd had a life there. I didn't realize as the years went on, it was actually, I'd also been killed on that land, and it was also fractious, but the energy was different. I loved it. I didn't have such a heavy karmic energy around it. I did have to do work there. But what I'm inviting you to do is just be aware of where you go, what you're feeling when you go somewhere. If you're in a good place with karma, you might go somewhere, always have the good feelings. You might remember, oh, this feels amazing. You might never have cursed someone. And I hope you haven't, you don't ever have to, unhook that. But for me, that's part of my journey, to have to be like, whoa, okay, I haven't really owned this. And like, that will have knocked on, you see, into other lifetimes, because it's that pee under the mattress. It doesn't matter where you go, you're not gonna, it's not that you want to get away with, but you want to make good with, you want to make peace with. Yeah. And that's why the work, my body of work is coming to peace, because if you've got one thing, you've got one thing, a tiny little splinter of your finger can ruin your day, because you just like, it's just there, isn't it? You're like, oh, I gotta get it out of my body. I gotta get it out of this thing. It's just playing on you all the time. So, the last few years for me, it's really, I'm facing all the stuff. And sometimes you think, I don't even know what I'm meant to do about it, actually. So I will say, make a prayer right here and now. Tell me what I need to do, angels, God, spirit. And this brings me on to the process, because you might be going, oh my God, yeah, this really speaks to me. I've had this problem with this town or this or whatever. Okay. So I'm going to tune in, but the first thing I wanted to say was that you can download the PDFs on my website. And the one of them is, I think it's literally coming to peace with life. So it's just the process of coming to peace. And I'm not saying that this will completely heal anything and everything. It's just an invitation, and it's a beginning part, okay? But the simplistic process of peace is pray, explore, accept, have compassion, and you'll find ease. So if you've got a problem with a town, first of all, pray. Thank you, God. Show me what is going on here. Show me what I need to know. If I need to have a healing, show me the healer. Show me what it is I need to know, so I can come back to peace. Help me see, help me know, help me understand, heal me. Okay. Ask for help, because there are so many beings in the other realms that want to help us. And if we don't ask, they literally cannot help. It's just as simple as that, okay? Get yourself a card deck if you haven't got one, if you struggle to hear directly, and you'll get wisdoms and answers. For example, I know I want to, a part of me really wants to push forward and get on with my journey in the world and, help and do my big like projects. And I keep getting a card reading, say, a few weeks. It's like spirit's like, whoa, stop. I'm still integrating this year the fact that I finally wrote that book, because that was a long dream, and you start getting used to like it'll never happen. It's like, oh God, it's happened. It's like I'm in shock and it's sinking through my layers, right? It's like, just stop. Yeah, I have an autistic label for one reason or another, and either it is just trauma, which I have a big suspicion it's a lot of trauma, but for one reason or other, it takes me quite a long time for things to sink in. Fine, I'm also a Leo, it's a fixed sign, so change is not okay. Change is slow for me. So that's the first thing. Pray and trust. Trust what you're getting. Okay. I'm in a book coming out soon called The Energy and the Intuitives Oracle. Okay. And in this one, I talk about the clair senses. So are you clairsentient, claircognizant, clair audio, clair visual? Do you see pictures internally and you get messages that way? Do you know stuff? You just have knowings, which is always the thing that I had. Do you sense things? Do you have a clairsentience? Or do you hear things? Yeah, spirit can drop words in your ears. So make your prayers and get used to how you receive that knowings. Yeah, you might just have a compulsion, and that is an intuition. Yeah, you might have this like, oh, I really need to go and do that. Your higher self is going, go over there, go and speak to this person, go and get that healing, whatever it is. Okay, so it may be that you need a practitioner. Like, it really helped me having my friend with me yesterday. I didn't know that was going to happen, but I definitely know that I've wanted some healing that I couldn't articulate, and I know she does healing, and I knew we were going to be beneficial. But I just, it was there, it happened, and it all worked really well. So make your prayers. Mostly so you can open up the door to receiving help and just get it, receiving. You are allowed to have help. You're allowed spiritual help. You're allowed help from people around you, family members or friends, whoever it is, or professionals, if that's the way you need. Yeah. So make your prayers and then explore. Okay, you can explore by EFT or journaling. There's the two ways I would recommend if you're on your own and doing this work. Be kind to yourself, put a little timer on and just do a little bit. If it's a bit much, stop it, do something else, ground, have a look around the room, eat something, take a walk in nature, whatever it is, talk to a tree. You can explore it. But what I'm after doing for you is exploring. What I'm inviting you to do, sorry, is explore. Explore your feelings, explore your thoughts, explore the conflicts. Okay. And bit by bit, you'll be working that splinter out of your subconscious, out into your conscious and away. And if you feel to, if you're into journaling, I don't keep my journals. I put everything useful into a PDF or, notes, or it's a project. So I start creating a project and I burn the rest. I don't see the point. My writing's scrappy, so no one's ever going to read it when I'm dead and go, oh, she wrote all this beautiful stuff. It's illegible. I'm not writing it for you. I'm writing it to get it out of the fucking out of my system, rightly or wrongly so. It's fine, but I'd rather have a written book than, I'm not going to go back over it because it's getting out of my system. I don't want to keep hold of it all. It doesn't, I'm letting it out as a catharsis. So, but you might want to keep it, and that's absolutely fine. But if you do want to burn it, be careful. I used to burn it over a river, so it literally turns to ash, and that tiny bit of ash goes into the river. But do what it feels right for you. You can bury it. You can blow things into crystals or pieces of wood or stones and bury it. You make your prayers, talk to the crystal, talk to the stone, talk to the wood. I'll find like a broken twig on the floor and say, is it all right to use it? Yes, thank you. And I'll just blow my feelings into it. Yeah. Put it into and let it go and let it compost down into the earth. Call upon the violet flame. Okay. Something that comes to mind a lot when I'm with clients is a violet flame bag. And you can just literally put anything, okay, into the bag. Get it off your chest. This is not an accident. Yeah, get it off your chest, let it go. Okay. We do want to let go of the past, but pretending that it isn't there and pretending that it's just, you can just pretend it's all gone and perfect, to me, is is a little bit like spiritual bypassing. It doesn't mean that you have to suffer to heal the past. It just means you may be asked to face it because that's how we grow and learn. If you didn't feel guilty or remorseful, and this spirit said to me, I'm like such a bad person, and they're like, do you want to hurt people? No. Are you sad that you hurt people? Yeah. So why do you think you're a bad person? Because if you're a bad person, you wouldn't give a motherfucking fuck. You just wouldn't care, right? I have this like, I'm so bad. It's grief. It's like, oh my God, I did wrong. Yeah. And that's how you learn. You can say there's no real right or wrong or black or white, but really, if you hurt another, that has a knock-on effect. And at some point, you're going to go, oops, that doesn't feel so good, right? Of course you do. So that's why in this life, I've had a lot of feelings of guilt and shame. In my human design, I have a lot of that as well. So, if you're interested in finding out, like, why do I have this? Why do they have that? Go and find out your human design because you'll see. Um, as you have the reading, there's different numbers, and you have your different codons there, the gene keys, but there's a shadow with every one, and there's different ones that we all have, right? And it shows up differently, and that's fine. You might not have guilt and shame. It might be you feel repressed or you feel stuck or something else. But for me, they've been very strong in my energy field, and that is just one of the soul retrievals that I've done to be like, oh, right, that makes sense. It makes sense as why I'm living in this place, why I couldn't move yet because I really had to do that. And it doesn't mean this town is just a town. Like everything can be neutral, good, bad, or ugly, but it's what we bring to it is because of what we're carrying, isn't it? Yeah. So obviously, yes, I had the pain of being a perpetrator of the cursing, but really there was pain underneath it. So when we did the work, what was left underneath was this heartache. And I can feel the expansion. It's like such a shift after yesterday because I could feel, rather than feeling the anger and giving it back to somebody through a curse, which is, if you're arguing in this life, you just like, actually, what's actually happening? Oh, I was in so much pain. Oh, my heartache. Oh, I've just watched people die, friends and family be hurt and injured. Oh, I'm just so sad. And that can turn into hurt, anger, rage. But actually, underneath, it's just grief. It's just really raw grief. And that's what I had a big, well of that moving through me yesterday. And today I just feel very neutral, feel very tired. It's quite a big process, and a lot of things are dropping into place internally. It's like, wow, oh my God, da, 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 da. So I hope you've learned something from today. I hope that makes sense to you. Please ask questions. Obviously, pop your comments. If you want to email me directly and you'd rather not put it there, you can email me at carolineMaryAndrews@hotmail.com. You're very welcome to do that. Or through Facebook, you can friend me, Caroline Mary, and you can send me a private message. Just tell me, what you saw and just let me know. You can also book a session with me if you've got something coming up. I don't work specifically as a past life regressionist. Okay, I'm not trained. I don't have that bit of paper. So you cannot come to me and say, oh, I want you to do this regression on me. What I can do is the process that I do, which is a profound healing process called the peace process that I learned from Christian Michelson, American coach and healer. Like really, he's a healer, but he tells himself as a coach. Because the work that I do somatically with people, you get in your body and you will heal across timelines. So it doesn't, like when I'm doing soul retrieval on my own and I'm starting to realize, oh God, I've got this like well of feelings, often I can see it's not from this life because the energy from it is more old. Sometimes I know it's child and it's very innocent and very like, and other times it's like, oh, it's just very, it's an adult part, but it's not from this life, and it's you're crossing the realm from this life into your soul. Okay, parts of your soul that are retrieving. Okay, it's an amazing book. I haven't got it. Have I got it here? No, I haven't got it here. There's an amazing book called Taxi for the Soul. I feel like I need to get it, so I'm going to get it actually. La, 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 la. Taxi for the Spirits, in fact. So I was at a healing fair in Manchester a year and a half. And God, it was it last year? It was about this time last year, actually. I met this guy. So he's called Jeffrey Shanti Woodcock. And this book, he said to me, I've come here because I feel like um, to, I've got to sell this book to somebody. And I was like, yeah, it's probably me. I'll have it. And I had no idea what he was talking about, but what he was going to be about. But basically, he is a soul retriever. So he goes around and he helps, he goes to places and he feels in and he's like, okay, yep, I've got some work to do here. And he'll help release souls, trap souls. People call it SRT, spirit release therapy. So he'll work with somebody and say, yeah, there's a soul part here that's talking to me that needs integrating. And he sends them up because it's like a ghost. It's not the true self, it's not the whole self. So from other lives, you can have like the part of me that was trapped on the battlefield. I don't need to integrate it to me because it's not my Caroline, it's my higher self. Can go up. Sometimes it wants to come in, sometimes you can send it to spirit. So it just depends, and it's the same with soul parts. That sometimes you can just send them to heaven. They want to go to heaven, or they'll integrate into your heart. It just, to me, spirit and our higher self and our spirit team knows what is best, which is why the first thing I would say in this process is pray, and then you're going to explore. You're going to explore your feelings, thoughts. And this is how he does it. He goes somewhere and he goes to a town. He's like, oh, I feel weird here. And then he calls in protection, help, and assistance, makes his prayers, and he explores like, what am I feeling? So when you're journaling, that's what you're doing. You're letting the part of your soul speak that has been previously tucked in your subconscious. You're giving it a voice, letting it out. And that's why it feels so much better. Let it out. You can do the healing, okay, this deep, deep, deep energy healing. And as I said, it spans timelines. And I really believe it, because if you heal the karma from this life or the feeling from this life, you're going to heal it from the other lives because it will be connected in some way. Okay, you've got to accept that this is needed. Okay, accept the parts, accept the things that have happened. Just accept, okay, I did some bad and I feel bad. Okay, acceptance is a way of giving it love and grace. It's not saying I like, okay, I don't accept that it's helpful for people to be horrible, but I can accept that people often are horrible when they're in pain and they're struggling. Yeah, it's a really different energy. It's not, I wish people just didn't do shitty stuff. I wish I hadn't done shitty stuff. What's the point? It doesn't work, does it? It creates more tension and conflict. Need a drink. Mm. And compassion speaks for his itself. Yeah. Compassion again isn't saying, oh, it's okay that everyone does shitty stuff. It's saying, know that the human condition can be very challenging. And when people are in pain, they often lash out and act out. I don't want to have that happen to me. I don't want to do it, but I have compassion when it arises so that I can embody love for that part of me, or for that other person, or for this part of my soul. And that is the grace that happens that brings ease. And if you're not at ease, start again, make more prayers, do more exploring. Can you accept it? Are you able to accept this thing? Am I at peace? Have I got compassion? Am I at ease? And you can just keep going through that. Obviously, it may not be the entire answer for you. It might be that you need the medicine or somebody being with you. You might need like regression therapy. It can really help people, but it's not 100% necessary. It's just that if it's going to help you on your soul growth and your soul journey, you might then start accessing other lifetimes rather. But I tell you what, it's not something I sought out, but it's something that happens for me. That is the nature of me. It's not everyone's, and it's fine. But for him, it's the same. Yeah, he would go around and feel weird, and then he'd be like, oh, okay. And then he'd read something about the village and be like, oh, right, okay. And then he'd realize it's not just me healing for the village. Oh, I have lived here. Okay. So this is another part of why I want to do this video today, because it might be that you go on holiday somewhere and you think, why did I go here? But actually, it's because on a soul level, you had some healing to do and a part of your soul was coming home. And you might feel funny for a few days and think, that's going on? Because it's some part of you integrating. And you don't always have to consciously know, but sometimes you're going to feel so off that you just need to do some work with it. And that's why you could get hold of Jeffrey and have a session with him. I had a session with him a year or so ago. Well, yeah, after I met him and read his books, because I was like, I think I have this in in my town here, and he confirmed, yeah, in the Dark Ages, and I in the Middle Ages, yeah. And I believe that it is two different lives. Yeah, I think there was two different lives here. at least I want to say. But I may not need to know all of them, but I certainly needed to do some healing around it, and that's why it's very relevant to talk about it today. So I hope that's helped you understand a little bit about soul retrieval. And why it happens now is because actually so many of us are coming into full coherence. So we're going to be healing like almost as many or all of our previous Earth lives. Okay. And sometimes you heal one, it'll heal all the rest because the same theme is playing out. And once you understand it and you've healed it, it doesn't have to, you just don't need that lesson anymore. So for me, yesterday I was healing betrayal, feeling betrayal, not feeling welcomed, and physical abuse, you might say. And I can imagine rape as well. I'm not 100% on that. So obviously, if I heal and forgive that, I never need to do that journey. I don't need that experience again. It's just like, okay, yeah, humans are shitbags sometimes. I've been a shitbag sometimes. I forgive it all and it's gone. Just let it go. Yeah, you just make peace with the human condition, and you just let that theme go. For other of us, we might need more. It just, we're all different, but it's happening more and more now because so many of us, we want to come into a higher vibrational reality for ourselves, but as a collective, and it's all coming out the woodwork, and it's why the world looks like a shit show right now. It's not got worse, it just has been very challenging, and it's all ramping up. So there's a lot of light coming in, so we're having healing crises. So if you've ever been for a healing with massage or Reiki or something like this, you'll know for a few days there's a bit of a wobble because your emotions are going to come out. You might have this spontaneous like soul integration, soul healing happening, and you didn't necessarily expect it, but it's going to happen. And then you go, oh, I'm back again now. I feel okay again now. Yeah. So it's what I mean to say, that is why understanding a little bit about healing and soul retrieval and how that all works, integration of the soul, it's really helpful, because rather than thinking you're crazy, and there's a book who called You Crazy, Having a Spiritual Awakening, you just go, oh, it's part of my integration so that I can heal and move on and grow as a soul and come back to fullness and wholeness. So there you go. That's me. I hope you enjoyed today. Please pop your questions or comments, feedback, anything you want to share below. I always welcome that. It's been a great pleasure to share this part of my journey with you, and I hope you've learned something, and I look forward to seeing you next time. So much love to you, so many blessings, and may your ascension be with ease and grace. See you next time, guys. Bye for now.